If you have not been following the Raptors 905, the Toronto Raptors G League affiliate, you have been missing out because the Raptors 905 have put up an historic start to the G League season. They started off with a G League record 11 straight wins, an 11-0 start to the season. They've built up a quality roster and are just winning machines right now. Not all of them like being convincing. Some have been a little bit more narrow, but a huge bounce back season for the Raptors 905. And we're going to investigate a little bit further into this streak and who those top performers are. I remember a few years ago, I was a Raptors 905 season ticket holder when I lived a little bit closer to the arena. Now I don't, so I can't go. But Raptors 905 games are awesome, and I think if you're able to go, you should get out, especially with the team playing this well. Previously, they've had a head coach, Patrick Mutombo, who did a great job with the group. I saw a mini playoff run, an Eastern Conference Finals run for the Raptors 905 this season with guys like Delano Banton and Justin Champagnie balling out. But last season was a little bit of a step back for the Raptors 905 group. So it's so great to see them taking a step up this season and putting up like historic figures like this, starting 11-0. And they're only adding on to the history because they've since won another game and are now 12-0 to start the season after a 23-point comeback in their most recent game. 12-0 to start the season, just building onto this record. And hopefully they can keep this record going moving forward for the team. But coming into the season, I said it on the channel many times that I don't feel like the Raptors bench is top heavy, but I feel like it's a very deep bench. I feel like there's a lot of NBA caliber players on the Raptors bench, and it's going to keep some players who maybe get NBA minutes somewhere else, who are worthy of NBA minutes somewhere maybe, but there's not enough room for those minutes with the Raptors. And it has kind of panned out that way. The bench hasn't been top heavy, as players get injured, like we've seen Barrett out and Manu quickly missed a game. The replacements from a starting perspective haven't quite been up to scratch. But the deeper parts of the bench, we have guys consistently contributing, where it's like tough to get Colin Murray-Boyles a bunch of minutes every night, where it's been extremely tough to get Jamison Battle minutes this season, even though every time he has gotten those minutes, he has played quite well. It's been difficult to get everybody the role that we maybe think they deserve. So as a result, maybe some more talented players are getting a run out in the G League that in other seasons for the Raptors they wouldn't have done. Because I remember a few years ago, Raptors were having to rely on big bench minutes from Malachi Flynn and Juancho Hernangomez, guys who are no longer in the NBA. Now it feels like we have quality NBA players at least on the other end of the bench. So again, that just puts quality players in the G League, and as a result, the Raptors, 905, 12-0 start to the season. A.J. Lawson has been the star for that team, averaging 24 points in the G League. He's playing so well that he's actually earned a couple minutes here and there with the Raptors in their recent poor run at the NBA level. But also, big shout-outs to Elijah Martin, maybe one of the older players for being a rookie, but he's averaging 19.2 points per game, and he's shooting 43% from three, 52% from the field in 12 games. Elijah Martin has been an absolute star with this team, and what's great about that is that he's developing, and the scoring aspect is what was maybe a little bit more of a gamble. I think what mainly the Raptors were sold on was the intangibles, how tenacious he was, how much of a winner he was with the success he's had in his college career, a national champion in his final season playing in college. Just an absolute tenacious player with a dogged mentality, and he's producing these levels in the G League, which is great. Jonathan Mobo has kind of disappointed, I think, at the NBA level so far, but he's getting a good run on the G League with a good team. That's only going to enhance his development and enhance his confidence. Chucky Hepburn, undrafted free agent signing for the Raptors, two-way contract player. Like Elijah Martin, A.J. Lawson, he's playing well. And then it's just filled out with quality pieces like Tyreek Key, who has been with the 905, solid player. Joyner, who's been with the 905, I think previously, solid player. David Roddy, who has loads of NBA experience playing and not even getting the heavy bulk of minutes with this group. Olivier Sarr getting solid minutes. And even got the likes of Quincy Guerrier, who has played well for the 905 previously, not getting as many minutes. And even guys like three-time NBA champion Patrick McCaw, who's just getting into the swing of things here. He's only played 3 games. He was an off-season pickup for the 905, but he's a 3-time NBA champ, one time with the Raptors. He is I believe he's a one-time now G League champion as well previously, where his team, I think it was Delaware he was on, they beat the 905 in the Eastern Conference semis that I alluded to having been present for. So feels like a really deep Raptors 905 team. Patrick McCaw even actually got the win today chain for the 905 after the recent 23-point comeback win to move to 12-0 in the season. So I think it's a really interesting time looking at the Raptors 905 and looking at the depth charts for the Raptors. Now, as I said, it's a deeper bench, but it's not top heavy. So that's where we've maybe seen some problems for the Raptors. So people always tend to wonder, if a player is playing this well in the G League, why aren't they making that step up to the NBA? AJ Lawson's averaging 24 points per game in the G League. Why is he not making the step up to the NBA? It reminds me a lot of my experiences as a Raptors 905 season ticket holder when I was watching Delano Banton just absolutely feast on G League competition. Delano Banton was a great example of somebody who was tremendous when he had the ball in his hands and was playing against weaker defensive competition because he was so difficult to stop. In the G League, he just pick up his dribble anywhere, find a way to manufacture a look, and he would score very often. The NBA is a different beast because, first of all, the defenses are a lot more difficult to navigate. That's kind of the big thing. But the second thing is, yeah, it's great when you have the ball in your hands all the time at the G League level. But when you step up to the NBA, you're not the best player anymore. The ball's in your hands a lot less. What are you going to do when the ball isn't in your hands? How are you going to impact the team enough on offense to justify your playtime when the ball isn't in your hands all the time? And this was always a problem for guys like Malachi Flynn, who, granted, when Malachi Flynn went to the G League, every time I watched him, it looked like he wasn't out of place. Banton looked out of place in the G League. Just wasn't quite able to make enough of a consistent jump to the NBA. Malachi Flynn never quite looked out of place in the G League, which is a negative thing. But when Malachi Flynn had the ball, we saw a Pro-Am game where he had 73 points that people were screaming about and thinking how's this guy not getting more NBA minutes? Why is Nick Nurse not playing this guy? Well, because he wasn't good enough at that level to get the ball in his hands all the time, and he wasn't, unfortunately, producing nearly enough as an off-ball player, to justify the playtime and justify getting minutes over anybody else, even on an extremely weak Raptors bench at the time. So that's just examples of why guys can't make that step up all the time. Guys like AJ Lawson, he is getting some minutes here and there, and he had a really good stretch for the Raptors last season. But when the Raptors are at their best, and guys like Barnes and Ingram are at their best, AJ Lawson is just not getting as many of those touches that he would be getting in the G League. So where AJ Lawson needs to find, what would AJ Lawson need to find to get more minutes in the NBA? And maybe even Elijah Martin, I think, has some of these traits. Maybe AJ Lawson needs to impact the game a bit more defensively and impact the game a little bit more off ball. Again, I've liked him being used as lately as some sort of spark plug. Can he inject a spark into the offense? I think that's important for the Raptors to consider. Not as an everyday rotation, but minutes here and there. Elijah Martin is showing some promise because if he's got some scoring talent and he can play off ball as a shooter and is a good point of attack defender who can defend the perimeter, that's an interesting one to look at. But I think mostly people underestimate the jump from the G League to the NBA. That being said, I'm fired up about the Raptors 905 starting so well, and it's great for Raptors development, and I hope that this streak can absolutely continue.